Hello everyone, and welcome to Techstrong TV. Today is Tuesday, December 6th, and hope you're all having a wonderful day so far. I'm your host, William Willis, and in today's show, we're going to bring you some fantastic interviews with incredible guests from around the world, so stay tuned. As always, I'm going to start off with our Techstrong News Recap, filling you in on the biggest tech headlines that are making waves. Then we'll go to KubeCon Cloud Native Con North America, where Mitch met with Uma Mukara, head of chaos engineering at Harness, to discuss the importance of chaos engineering and its increased adoption across many sectors. Also at KubeCon Cloud Native Con, Mitch spoke with Victor Gamov, developer advocate for Kong, about API security and why it is such a big deal today, as well as announcements regarding Kong Gateway 3.0. Then we go to Qualys Security Conference 2022, where Alan met with Silas Atherley, Senior Vice President of Product Management at Qualys, to talk about Qualys' unified cloud platform. Also at Qualys Security Conference 2022, Alan met with Payal Mehrotra, Senior Director of VMDR and TrueRisk at Qualys, to discuss why organizations should be taking a risk-based approach to mitigating threats. We're then joined by our very own Cody J. Brown, who will hop on and tell us more about some of our upcoming webinars. Next up, we're airing episode 4 of our series, Engineering the Change. This series will follow the 3 winners of the Engineering the Change Scholarship Program as they tackle a 10-week intensive coding bootcamp and prepare themselves for careers in software engineering. We will then wrap up this broadcast with 2 episodes of View with Vizard. In the first episode, Mike interviews Luo CEO Nicholas Robalt, as Nicholas explains how the DevOps workflows will be consistently applied across edge computing platforms at a time when IT is becoming more distributed than ever. Then Mike interviews Cybrary CEO Kevin Haynes, as Kevin explains why organizations during uncertain economic times need to focus on upskilling the skills of the cybersecurity teams they already have. And that's what we have coming up for you on this episode of Techstrong TV. So without further ado, let's get the show started. Enjoy.
Do you know what you want?
Can we afford this place?
I'm thinking 1,000-piece Kubernetes, cloud workload protection, and XDR combo.
Yeah, I actually don't see any prices.
Hello, how can I schedule a demo for you today?
So we're on a budget.
Okay.
How much is your 1,000-piece Kubernetes?
What solutions are you currently evaluating?
You don't have to order off that thing.
We don't?
How did you get in here?
Check this out.
Uptick secret dollar menu.
Order today and you can secure any combo of cloud and endpoint assets through the end of next year. All for $1.
What if I want to secure 100 Mac laptops and 900 Linux servers?
Yeah, $1.
What if I want 500 laptops and 500 Kubernetes nodes? Just $1?
Yep, mix and match to create the combo that works for you.
What about customer support?
Yep, everything for just $1.
We're gonna order off the Uptick secret dollar menu.
And seriously, how did you get in here?
Seriously.
Try the Uptick's combo of CNAP and XDR delivered in a single UI and data model. Just $1 to secure your cloud, containers, and laptops through the end of next year. Offer ends December 31st.
Hi again, everyone. Here are the headlines for December 6th. First up, the director of the FBI, Chris Wray, has raised national security concerns over TikTok. Wray cited concerns that the Chinese government had the ability to control the app's recommendation algorithm to manipulate content and influence operations in the US. Additionally, Wray noted that the app could be used to collect data on its users. Concerns about China's influence on TikTok is nothing new, as this story has been playing out over the course of the past couple years, even as the company has repeatedly stated that the Chinese government has no access to the app. This being said, the US officials in TikTok are currently in talks about an agreement that would resolve American security concerns, with TikTok saying that they believe that they can come to a resolution that would satisfy them. In other news, in order to increase advertisers on its platform, Twitter has offered advertising incentives to increase ad spending. Twitter has offered to match ad spending 100% for advertisers that book $500,000 or more, up to $1 million cap, in what it is hailing as the biggest advertiser incentive in history of Twitter. This comes as many companies such as General Mills and Audi have stopped or paused ad spending on Twitter. However, Apple and Amazon, 2 companies that originally paused spending, have stated that they plan on resuming advertising pending some security tweaks to the ad service. Next, as more users are dissatisfied with the current direction Twitter is moving in, many are looking towards alternatives. This has led to massive increases in the user bases of Twitter-like social apps, but the newfound popularity of these apps are bringing scaling and security issues to the spotlight. A prime example being Hive. With all the Twitter chaos, Hive grew to over 2 million users by the end of November. However, it has had to resort to shutting down its servers to work on critical vulnerabilities that have become apparent because of the influx of users. Some of these vulnerabilities include bugs that would allow attackers to access user data and edit posts. Hive has not yet stated when they plan to go back online, but this incident poses questions over the security for all the Twitter alternatives. In other news, the New Zealand government has said it plans to implement a law that will require digital companies, including Meta and Google, to pay local media companies for the content that they distribute to their users. Many of the New Zealand media companies have been struggling to stay afloat as more and more advertising moves to digital. In order for them to continue to operate, they need to be able to profit from the contents that they distribute, and that is exactly what this newly proposed law intends to do. The legislation will go to Parliament, where it is expected to pass. Zooming out, other countries, such as Australia and Canada, have created similar laws to help digital platforms make deals with local media companies. And just last week, a review by the Australian government showed that the policy was largely successful. On Container Journal, we have an article looking at a survey that shows a significant spike in Kubernetes use. A survey getting responses from over 500 IT employees found that 79% said that their organizations increased their Kubernetes usage over the past 2 years, and 87% said that they expect their Kubernetes usage to increase even more in the next 2 years. The survey also looks at the reasons for the increased Kubernetes use and some of the main challenges in implementation. To learn more, go to containerjournal.com. On Security Boulevard, we have an article looking at how Palo Alto Networks is moving towards securing medical devices. Palo Alto Networks has stated that it is extending its Secure Access Service Edge platform to medical devices in a move that would create a zero-trust IT environment with least privilege access policies for medical devices. To learn more, go to securityboulevard.com. Finally, on DevOps.com, we have an article looking at how Amazon Web Services launched a preview of its Amazon Code Catalyst framework that can automatically provision and configure developer environments in the cloud. Amazon has said that the goal of this new framework is to reduce the friction that developers encounter when they need to launch a new development project. To learn more, go to DevOps.com. And that's today's Techstrong News Recap.
DevOps.com is the #1 online destination for DevOps education and community building. DevOps.com covers all aspects of DevOps, including DevOps best practices and tools, DevOps culture, DevSecOps, business impact, continuous testing, continuous delivery, and more. DevOps.com has the largest collection of original DevOps content, featuring breaking news, blog posts, podcasts, and more. Visit www.devops.com to learn more. DevOps.com, where the world meets DevOps.
This is Techstrong TV.
Well, we're back. We're here at KubeCon 2022 in Detroit, Motor City, Detroit City. We have one more interview today. I'll say that and another one will pop up. But we have one more interview today. I think it's our last, but certainly we'll enjoy this. Talking with Uma Mukata, who is with Harness. You're also the founder of the Litmus project, and I think you're the primary on it as well, correct?
Yeah, that's true. Nice meeting you, Mitch, here. Good to be here, yes.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, because you've gone through an acquisition and you have more of a history than I described.
Okay. Yeah, I founded Litmus project with the idea of trying to do cloud-native chaos engineering for Kubernetes ecosystem back in 2018. We've been doing a lot of work with the community to build this project for chaos engineering needs. It's been going on well. We gave it to the foundation back in 2020 as a sandbox project. Earlier this year, we became an incubating project. Harness acquired us earlier this year. I'm now head of chaos engineering at Harness. It's been great. The whole idea of me coming to Harness is to deliver the chaos capabilities for the modern CD platforms. So, yeah, it's been a great journey.
Why do you think it was important for Harness to acquire a company like yours and have someone heading up? I mean, it's a great field, a lot of interest in it. People are adopting it in different ways.
Yes. So, it's very well suited for Harness to have the chaos engineering as a feature in its platform, because there's a very organic need for this cloud-native modern ecosystem to put more thrust on the reliability, right? So things are very, very dynamic, and Harness has the vision of being a complete software delivery platform, right from where you code, deploy, and then test it, and then actually take care of reliability in production too, right? So chaos engineering is the technology that helps in making sure that you can take care of reliability in DevOps, right? It's been gaining a lot of traction. People are looking for chaos engineering, so I would say chaos engineering completes one important gap in Harness portfolio. So yeah, it's a kind of natural fit.
It's interesting. I think many people know chaos engineering from Chaos Monkey, kind of early days, right? That was sort of, at least that's when I first heard the term. But the state of the art has advanced far from that, just kind of turning stuff off and trying to break things. How would you describe today's state of the art of chaos engineering?
Yeah, no, great question. I love this question because that's true. Chaos Monkey from Netflix, at that time it was more of how to do reliable streaming services, right? It was all in production, so only the experts can do chaos engineering. But it was lulled for some time, and about 3-4 years ago, there was a new need for chaos engineering because cloud-native ecosystem is growing very fast, right? So the need for chaos engineering now is not just in ops, but also for developers, QA teams, to make sure that you take care of reliability at the pre-prod level, not necessarily in prod. And that's why we are actually seeing more and more adoption, right? So chaos engineering is known for ops only, but now the latest trend is, I've been saying actually chaos engineering is not just for ops. That's my tagline right now. Mm-hmm. My other tagline is chaos engineering is for masses. That means even developers are going to see this chaos as a developer tool set, right, which helps in tackling reliability at the time of writing code, right? So yeah, that's the modern chaos engineering, I would say. And it's become so easy. You don't need to be an expert to do chaos, right? So that's what cloud native does to you, right? So it's become completely declarative. There are so many ready-made chaos experiments available. So an average, software experienced user can introduce chaos engineering into the software development lifecycle and get the benefits out of it.
How do you find organizations bring in chaos engineering? I can imagine some managers, some technical leaders saying, we need to do that for cloud native resiliency issues. Others might say, hey, I don't want anything in there messing around, making things worse, right?
Yeah.
I already got enough issues. Is it developers, is it ops people, or is it usually being brought in by someone more senior in the hierarchy?
I would say it's kind of both. Traditionally, it's been a little bit higher in the hierarchy. VP of Ops, VP of SREs, they're the ones who say, okay, I might need chaos engineering as a need, but now things are happening in a right way as well, right? So people are more finding chaos engineering need in QA, right? So it's developers or QA leads. They're being tasked with, you have to make sure that things are taken care in terms of quality. In QA also, you need to cover so many things right now because of the containerization. So they're looking for chaos engineering. So I would say the software managers, DevOps leads are the purchase personas for chaos engineering, increasingly. I mean, the whole thing continues to remain true. SREs still need chaos engineering, but it's not just the SREs. And more, we are seeing that the software engineering managers, DevOps engineer leads, they are looking for chaos engineering, and they are deciding, to go and get a head start of chaos engineering in their organization, and then multiple teams are taking it up.
Okay. You mentioned early Chaos Monkey being something that you had to be an expert to know how to design it, tell it what to do to disrupt video streams. And today, that sort of expert isn't required to do chaos engineering. What does it take to do chaos engineering today?
Today, for example, in harness chaos engineering, you just need to know how to put things together, right? It's like a pseudocode, right? I need to run this reliability test. So I need to break something and I need to check whether something is right or not, right? That's how most of the cloud native Kubernetes based stuff is. It's declarative in nature. So you define ABC conditions, the chaos operator will take care of you, right? So they just need to know the use case and a flow of the test case, and then you're good, right? You don't really need to be an expert.
So more of a declarative language, so you can set it against anything you want.
Yeah, it's all YAML.
Only knowing about one thing. Great. Any announcements or anything happen at the show that
I know.
Talk about?
We are announcing Harness Chaos Engineering availability in a limited form this KubeCon. We've been part of Harness for the last 8 months. We've been hard at work in bringing the chaos capabilities into Harness platform as a module. We are announcing this is the first enterprise product that has both CD and CE, the chaos engineering together. We would like to announce the availability of Harness Chaos Engineering as part of the Harness platform.
Very good. Harness is a great company. A lot of developer tools, a lot of open source things, and a lot of folks use it. Any impressions of the show? Chaos engineering isn't new. It was talked a lot about at different times in our industry. There's a lot of other things that have come along too. What's your kind of view on state of cloud native and where we are?
Cloud native, it's grown big. It's no more a fancy thing. It's reality. There are so many adoption stories now. The most of the talks are experiences of the challenges, best practices, case studies that shows that cloud native has grown. And I see various areas being talked within KubeCon. For example, I was dying to talk about chaos engineering at KubeCon 4 years ago. This KubeCon, we have about 6 to 7 chaos engineering talks, one from Goldman Sachs, right? And then we had a full chaos day by Harness with the entire day of chaos talks. Things like that, observability, I see, low code, no code stuff, service meshes. There are many, many areas that are being, nurtured and improved within some. And then so many vendors, so many technologies. It's always a great learning, the show has been great.
It's amazing because I've had that same conversation with other people talking about 2.5, 3 years ago. We'd love to have people talking more about SRE or adoption of OpenTelemetry, chaos engineering, et cetera. And a lot of things have accelerated very quickly in just a few years. 2 years since the beginning of the pandemic. 3 years ago, I guess it is now. To me, it's kind of shocking how things have changed so much in a relatively short period of time.
I would say there is a role being played by CNCF as a foundation, creating and nurturing, developing a community. Used to be it used to take a great skill. Now somebody like me with a lot of help from the foundation, I could start a project, build a community around it, find people, talk KubeCon is giving me an opportunity to talk like this. It's all part of the foundation. I think this is one of the good things that happened to the industry as a whole. I would have to give the credit to the foundation.
The early days, you were on your own, start an IRC channel or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Get people going, and you were it was up to you to do it all.
Yeah.
It is a tremendous amount of support that they provide.
Yeah.
Well, I hope you're having a great show, and thanks to you for spending some time with us.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me. It's been great. Thank you.
Great. Uma Mukata with Harness, Head of Chaos Engineering. We are wrapping up for the day. I don't see anybody else lined up, and we've got some hungry video production team members. So I have a feeling we're going to be hitting a steakhouse here pretty soon. So thank you for joining us today. We've had some fabulous guests, Uma and others who have been with us, and I appreciate you that you spent time with us today too. Of course, you'll be able to catch this on replay on Techstrong TV, so those videos will be posted soon. So hang tight, you'll get to catch any that you might have missed and want to see. We will be back tomorrow morning. We've got several interviews in the morning on Friday from KubeCon. to kind of wrap up our week here, and we'll see you on Techstrong.tv. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you, Mitch.
This is Techstrong TV.
Hey, we're back. I said we would be back, and we're here at KubeCon 2020 in Detroit, Motor City, Detroit City. And I have the pleasure of being joined again by, I think we last talked at Valencia.
Yes.
By Vic Kamoff. Welcome from KubeCon. Good to have you here, man.
Yeah, it's great to have you. It's great to be here. It's a huge honor to chat with you again. It's a pleasure, always pleasure.
Well, if you can't talk with a developer, talking with a developer is the next best thing. If,
Yeah.
You know, no offense.
Yeah.
I mean, because you talk to so many people that are, of course, doing that kind of work. I always love getting your perspective on it because
Thank you. Yes.
you hear from, everybody from probably the beginning person just getting into Kubernetes to folks who know a lot about it because they've been working with it for a couple of years now. Tell us first a little bit about your role, yourself, and also, of course, Kong.
Yeah. So I work as a developer advocate, and as you mentioned, I talk a lot with developers and see like their perspective of some of the problems that they're trying to solve. And from perspective of Kong, we see how Kong can help solve their problems with the API connectivity, some of the security problems that they're trying to solve, authorization, notification, and obviously operation and automation certain things. It's there's a saying that if something is really hard, you need to do it often, but smart people like to adopt automation. If you're doing something often, just like outsource it to some dumb computers that will do this for you. So, and there's a lot of conversation around those topics.
Most of us don't like the repetitive, especially after they do it enough, then it becomes mundane, then it becomes toil and all of that. So, automating it is usually where we, especially developers, because it's easy for us to do. API security is a hot topic, especially in the security world, because security people are kind of like, okay, what's APIs? And we've been around, but why is it suddenly such a big deal? Why is API security such a big deal today?
So it's very interesting topic because in the past, like a couple of years back, we see a lot of leaks happened through data leaks. Someone put their like database server outside of the world without password, and some like sneaky people wrote the sneaky programs that go and find those applications. People over this time, they learned that this is a bad idea, and conversation, like establishing conversation between the systems through database is a really bad idea. So people keep adopting APIs as the way how they will talk to different systems, and the number of APIs in the wild just like exploded and increased. And we see this as a vendor of the platform that the people running their APIs on top. And that's why we see a lot of attacks happening, not directly onto data systems, but to APIs. And not specifically to find something specific. Maybe explode some of the, like a denial of service type of attacks and see what breaks. For example, calling the GET request on certain API, like a GET products type of thing, and see how fast the server will go down. So it's like a simple way, because usually, read-only API, see people thinking we don't need to really pretend this a read-only API, because there's no modification of data not happening there, but it's still possible that through denial of service type of attacks, the things that happen. Another thing is that when you're exposing those APIs, you usually provide some sort of the way how we can distinguish these consumers of your APIs. So we see a lot of leaks through, for example, someone commit the API key into their GitHub repository, and some of the scanners that can go and find like strings that look like API keys. And after that, just take this and explore what kind of APIs can be achieved through this key, because different keys can provide different level of entitlements. Some of the keys will give you like certain level of access to data, and some of the API keys give you like admin access to some of the things. So that's important things, and helping developers to have ability to quickly to figure out what is happening with through like some observability tools. So they would get the alerts when the certain API usage start go up, and say, oh, okay, someone is doing something funky. Let's go investigate and see what is going on there. And also we start learning a lot of these things because we are building our own like managed service, and we if we were all in Valencia, I'd probably say like drinking our own, I don't know, wine, but you know, we're in America, we're eating our dog food, right? So we eating Kong inside our managed service. We use this, and we like everything we learn running managed service, we're putting back in the product. So that's why with Kong Gateway, we really hardened some security features. We are now FIPS compliant. We increased integration with Open Telemetry, so it's natively supported.
Are those some announcements that you made here?
Yeah, we did the user conference called Kong Summit a few weeks back, and the Kong Gateway 3.0 is a big thing. Integration with the Open Telemetry, that's a big thing. So plug your Honeycomb, plug your Datadog, plug whatever implementation you have, and you get the data from your API, and you will see how fast your API is, what kind of like error rates you're getting. You will get the latency numbers. So it's a pretty cool thing, and this is how we're trying to help to developers provide the tools, so they will be ready when someone will come knocking and saying, hey, like we want to DDoS your APIs.
You know, it's interesting. We were talking about this on some other discussions today. Developer productivity is really, I've heard it multiple times come up during the conference. And you know, the obvious reasons why, with economy and people trying to use resources, some of our most valuable resources, effectively. You know, API security is also something that can be a distraction, right? If you're having issues. And by the way, I mean, to me, part of the explosion of APIs around microservices, how do all these things talk? API services, you know, API first designed applications where the app is all APIs and it's just layered on top of it as a GUI that's talking to those APIs, rather than sort of ingress and egress, the M&M model, right? The hard exterior. So you know, we don't want developers being called into production issue on this API thing, or you know, and of course REST is probably the most commonly used, right? It looks like an HTTP attack, but it's actually can be attack against our APIs. So it's not surprising to see, you know, Kong and others contributing and being part of Open Telemetry. You wouldn't think of that as an API security topic, right?
Yeah, but what I like to say, I guess it's a moment where I'm wearing back my consultancy, kind of like the jacket, and saying, hey, whatever you cannot manage, you cannot control. If you cannot manage your API rates, you don't know the numbers, how fast, you know, what kind of SLA you provide for your API consumers, what's the response times, and there's no baseline, and you don't know like what is going on. That's very, you know, dangerous situation, and especially if you we speaking about the economy, you know, people sell APIs. You know, the people you as a user, you paying the API provider to use their services through the APIs.
That might be the only way to use the service.
Exactly. Right? Like API monetization is a big topic, and like the like measuring API calls, and more importantly, getting this granularity per service, per a product, like API as a product, you know. So you can get different, like take the Twitter, you can have a tweets, or you can have a different layer where you have a access to their, like a fire hose. You get the tweets through some sort of delay, but with fire hose you had tweets immediately, and it's a different SLA, and it's a different kind of like you pay more premium to get this, like a premium features and all these kind of things. Yeah.
Any other announcements or things happening for you at KubeCon?
You mentioned the developer productivity, and I think one of the topics that we also want to tackle, and especially in the world of, okay, so what we're trying to achieve, we're trying to hire more people and create the army of people who are repeating some of the tasks, or what we're trying to automate some of the tasks and continue, you know, focusing on some of the like challenges, like solving some of the customers' problems. So, one of the things that we're trying to solve with automation is basically running Kong at scale, and usually You might have expertise from some consultants to go and install and configure everything correctly. Now it's not necessary, so we announced this new technology preview, tech preview of Kong Gateway Operator that essentially takes experience that we gain in our cloud, gain working with our customers, and some of the best practices we develop this and automate this and put as a part of the product when the people can just install their cluster. And we support this gateway API that comes beta in currently, and some of the cloud providers already started support this. Think about this as a kind of Ingress 2.0, but more advanced. You mentioned this REST is kind of like a lingua franca for talking through APIs, but we also see many services are exposed on L7 protocols, TCP, UDP, in all the stuff that layered on top of it. So Gateway API extends kind of ingress ideas and put this more like more specific APIs around like your HTTP traffic, gRPC traffic, your TLS traffic, and all these kind of things. I think that as of right now, one of my colleagues is actually speaking about this the Gateway API. He's co-leading this specification with his colleague from Google, and this kind of like things will happen in open.
Mm-hmm. Very good. So I assume you have a booth here. Folks can visit with you.
Yes.
How about website? Where do folks? I'm sorry. Where's the booth?
It's George 17.
George 17.
Yeah.
How about the website, folks? I know you have a lot of ways to engage with your product.
Yeah, it's konghq.com, and go and find konghq on the YouTube. All the things that I'm, describing right now, I already put a bunch of videos there, and like folks can learn how they can do this in spend a few minutes, learn something new.
Yep. konghq.com and check you out on YouTube.
Yep.
Vic, very good.
Thank you so much.
Always enjoy talking with you.
Likewise.
Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for being with us. Be sure and check out konghq.com, and lots of great stuff there. We will be back. I think we have one more interview. I don't want to say we're saving the best for last, but it's going to be really good. So thanks. We'll see you in a few minutes.
Have a nice day.
SecurityBoulevard.com is the leading resource for news, analysis, and education on challenges facing the cybersecurity industry. SecurityBoulevard.com covers all aspects of cybersecurity, including data security, DevSecOps, cloud security, application security, network security, security threats, and more. SecurityBoulevard.com has the largest selection of security content, featuring breaking news, blog posts, podcasts, and more. Visit www.securityboulevard.com to learn more. SecurityBoulevard.com, home of Security Bloggers Network.
This is Techstrong TV.
Hi everyone, we're back here live in Vegas for the Qualys QSC show. Day 2. We've had some amazing keynotes yesterday and again today. Some great sessions as well. There's a CISO session going on pretty soon that I actually wanted to catch. It looked really good. But I want to introduce you to someone who spoke. Well, he's been with us at RSA. He was with us last year at the QSC show. It's Silas Athley. Close?
Pronounce it right, Alan.
All that practice paid off. Thank you. Silas, welcome back. How have you been?
Doing great. Great to be back. This is my 3rd interview on Alan's show.
Yes.
This is my 10th year in Qualys and my 10th security conference at Qualys.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Congratulations. That's great. So you actually had a chance to speak yesterday. I believe it was immediately following Sumed's keynote.
Correct.
Most of the people watching this weren't here.
Right.
So why don't we tell them a little bit about what your talk was about?
Right. So Sumed's talk was all about like how there's a need to bring in automation and speed to simplify security and to help customers reduce risk faster. And my talk followed after that, how Qualys platform and its integrated capabilities help customers do that, right? Like how can customer get more security in the investment what they're doing, as well as how they can break the silo they have today to reduce the risk faster. So that was all the talk about. I think the talk concentrated more on, look, at the end of the day, security teams need to do 4 things, right? Like in their day-to-day world to reduce risk. They need to find all their assets, what they have, bring in the business context for it. They will do everything possible to mitigate the risk for it. That's meaning like they would be doing vulnerability, configuration management, DevOps management, and they would be doing everything possible to detect the threats and respond to it. And then compliance as a checkbox of making sure like whatever they are doing in all 3 areas, they're showing the report to their auditors. The talk was all about how Qualys platform brings all of these capabilities together with a context so that your teams spend less time in Excel sheets. Because by the way, no security analyst signed up for cybersecurity job thinking like they're going to work in Excel sheets more.
Yeah.
And how companies can save that time and reduce the risk faster. That was all the talk about.
Excellent. So, first of all, I would just change one little thing.
Sure.
I think when you're doing security right, which is what you're talking about, compliance is a byproduct
of that, yes.
Rather than just a checkbox.
Yeah.
It's a byproduct.
Right.
Because if you're doing security right, you are compliant. But I want to really go in another direction
Sure.
with you. It's great the way you laid it out. Even I could do it, right? But in order to do that, you need a platform.
Correct.
Like, you mentioned the Qualys platform. Security today is so complex, and there's so many data points, and there's so much to worry about. You need that platform. That's the great enabler, right?
Right.
I think what, and it's come across the last 2 days here. The Qualys platform is, I call it hyperscale, right? I don't call it. I didn't make that name up. Hyperscale obviously is a real name. But there are a few companies in the world that can get to that level.
Sure.
As you mentioned, some of them even use Qualys, right?
Yeah.
But how does the scalability of the platform enable end users like who are watching this to simplify their security?
Absolutely, great question, Alan. So I would say from the benefits perspective, 2 parts, right? We all talk about technology people needing to uplift the conversation to risk. That conversation of risk is only possible if you're getting the comprehensive data from all the sources possible. So the first part of the platform is we provide multi-sensor approach for customers. There are a lot of talks from startups, from companies like, hey, agentless better, agent-based better, snapshot better, this better. What Qualys provides is a multi-sensor approach. We think that you need all sensors. You need to get attacker's perspective, so you need network scanner. You need agents to get comprehensive data. You need snapshot to know your SCA and the open source libraries. You need to know even your SaaS connectors to pull the data from SaaS. So Qualys platform gets this comprehensive data in the platform where we have gone through our own digital transformation. It's the most overused word, if I may use that. But what it means is we have changed the technology to use bare metal Kubernetes so that we use the new age technologies to index all of this huge data to create the data lake. And on top of that, we have provided the modules or the capabilities like the asset management and giving that context of what is my asset and if it is important or not, if it is a database machine or not, if it's a production machine or not, then giving that context ahead for doing the vulnerability management. And then not just doing the detections that I have 4 million vulnerabilities, but what's the risk of that? The 4 million means I need to only look into maybe 132 vulnerabilities which are posing risk to this production database. So giving this context from asset side to vulnerability risk, so the platform does this hard yard, put in hard yards to provide the insights and context for customers. Additionally, we do the patch management. by providing the same agent which is doing now asset and vulnerability management to go and patch these systems for the right set of patches or remediations required for the prioritized risk. And on top of that, when we provide the threat detection and response, we provide with, again, a context. So many times we hear the incident management teams are just bombarded with alerts, right? Why? Because that EDR or threat detection and response is done in siloed, where the platform again does the hard yard of providing them 5 alerts, which are important from your asset criticality, which are important because you have the underlying vulnerability so that you can prioritize the right things and take an action quickly. You made a great point on compliance being a byproduct. How we do it is we provide all of this great data from the risk and vulnerabilities and asset side, map it to all the frameworks out there, NIST, HIPAA, ISO, so the compliance people can come in the platform and generate their own reports instead of them needing to use another tool or another Excel sheet. So these are the hard yards platform put. I mean, I can share a case with you that a service provider, one of the biggest service providers in global, 400,000 agents already deployed for doing the asset and vulnerability management. When we hit in the pandemic, their service or the business team needed to make sure that their laptops of the employees now who are working remotely, they're patched for critical vulnerabilities within 15 days. Their traditional or legacy tools wouldn't be able to send the big packets of patches, and nobody wants to be on VPN because they need to be on the VPN of their customer.
Right.
But businesses wanted to make sure that they've patched within 15 days. Guess what? On the same agent, we could enable patch management on the same day, 400K devices within 5 days, deployed 10 million patches.
Oh my God.
Where the traditional patch management tool could deploy 1.5 million in 4 years. We could deploy in a week's time, 10 times more patches.
And that's
the scale I'm
scalability,
talking
right?
about.
That's scale. That's hyperscale. You're right. You know, you said something else that made me think of something. And that is, you know, the same way we said compliance is a byproduct of good security. Sometimes we lose sight of how important managing risk is. Because in many ways, good security is a byproduct of managing risk.
Absolutely.
Right? I mean, as silly as it sounds, you could have too much security, right? Because you're managing your risk wrong, and so you're trying to, go over, and too much security. I'm not going to say it's a bad thing, but it's a bad thing, right?
Yeah.
Let's talk about the Qualys platform and risk management, because I know it's a big piece of it. Beyond the nuts and bolts of fixing a vulnerability and patching and those kinds of things, how does it give the CISO, the management team, insight into their risk?
Right, so, and yesterday Robert talked about this in his keynote, that a lot of times, the technology or technical folks are more concentrating on, hey, you know what, like I found 1 million vulnerabilities, and guess what, I fixed 500,000 vulnerabilities. And then on the other side, CISO's been asking the board, like, hey, I need a place with the board. I need a meeting with CEO to explain the risk. And when they go in front of the board or the CEOs, the questions they ask is like, okay, you deployed Okta. Okay, you fixed 500,000 vulnerabilities. What does it mean for my business or the risk or the profitability of the company? And now the problem is, how can we uplift the conversation of these vulnerabilities as assets and the detections to what is my risk? And that's where I think your question was. For that, the problem today is happening is then our solution we think is add another tool which will basically look into all of this and somehow magically provide me like, hey, what is my risk? And that's where what Qualys really thinks to simplify security is we need to get context from each of these areas and use this context and bubble up what is my risk and quantify that, right? Today there are two problems. The number one is the risk algorithms don't consider all the facets and factors, and that sort of makes the CEOs and the board lose the confidence in the data. So we need comprehensive data to go in that risk algorithm. And the second part of that is, what does it mean for me? If that number is 700, 500, is it good or bad? How can we tie that up with the business? So those are the two things what Qualys is looking at doing. Is number one, coming out with the true risk. Mehul must have talked about it yesterday. What is true risk? Is it ties what are the vulnerabilities, what are the threats your businesses have. If you're in financial sectors, what are the recent threats trending in your sector? Tying that up with vulnerabilities, tying that up with what assets you have in your environment which are critical. If anything is used by your banking application, your CEO wants to know that if there is a risk, then tying that up to a score and then telling what exactly I need to do to fix it. And that is not just patches. I need to maybe work with my CIO to maybe change my Oracle 11G, which is already end of life, to Oracle 19. That's a cost and benefit conversation. So how can we provide like, no, you need to change my end of life Oracle to 19G, because look at this, your risk score for your Oracle database, which is used for your banking app, is 700, and which is high compared to all the peers in your industry. That's the insight what Qualys is providing so that they can uplift the conversation and talk with their management.
I love it. But you did a really nice job. You know, risk is probably one of the most overused but least understood terms in our cyber world, right? And that was a great explanation of it. Hey, we're about almost out of time here. Keep up the great work. We'd love to hear more. We're going to take a break here in Las Vegas, though, and I think we have another guest in just 2 minutes, so we'll be retooling. We're live in Vegas at Qualys' QSC 2022. We're here the rest of the day. Stay tuned.
This is Techstrong TV.
Hey everyone, we're back live in Vegas at Qualys' QSC Conference 2022 at the Venetian. We're having a great conversation today. We're going to continue our conversation about Qualys, VMDR, and the new True Risk capabilities in there. I want to introduce you to this woman. Her name is Payal Mehrotra. If I did it wrong, I apologize. Say it right for a
Sure, it's Payal Mehrotra.
Thank you. And thank you for being on Techstrong TV with us. We should start with a little bit about your background and what you do at Qualys.
Sure, definitely. So I'm Payal Mehrotra. I'm based out of Boston, Massachusetts. Been with Qualys for about less than 2 months, but been in the risk and compliance space for about 8 years, and in software development and software engineering for about 18 years.
Wow.
Yeah, so I came to, a little bit about myself, so I came to United States, I'm originally from India, but came to United States 23 years ago, did my master's here, and started working, and been in the security space for a very long time. Yeah.
Longer than you shouldn't have to admit to. But okay, I've been in longer though, so don't feel bad.
Yeah.
I'm still young.
Sure.
So, as I said, we were talking earlier about Qualys VMDR, and you know, I think the idea of a comprehensive vulnerability management solution is something. Look, I was friends with Philippe for many years.
Sure.
Okay, it's something we spoke about for years in this business, and many have tried. Right? Qualys has done a really good job with VMDR. It's end-to-end vulnerability management all the way through, and trying to automate it, which is, I think, something we still haven't, for whatever reason, the audience doesn't adopt automated patching easily.
Yes.
We have to work harder at that. But this new True Risk is I think, another great addition to the capability. He spoke about it a little bit, but let's hear your take on it.
Sure, definitely. So in any organization, right, whether big or small, there are always if you have laptops or you have machines, right? There's always going to be some software installed, right?
Yeah.
That means they would go either end of life or they would have updates, right? And we need to keep updating them. Otherwise, we would have, a security holes in them.
Right.
And constantly, a lot of the vendors keep updating their software because there are bugs, right? That hackers and attackers can use to get into your environment. So what TrueRisk is doing is, instead of you going and saying, I want to patch everything or I want to remediate everything, we're telling them based on what we know, right? And we collect a lot of data. We know a lot more things about your environment. We know a lot more things about your assets, your machines, your systems, right? Because we are installed on them. So that's real data. If we can analyze that data and we can give you a simple list of things and say, go do these things first because they matter the most for your risk posture. That is what TrueRisk is trying to do, right?
Yeah.
So taking a lot of data, analyzing it in the back end, coming back, because everybody likes numbers, right? Because it's easy, it's visual, right? You can remember, 1,000 is a big number, it's bad, right? 300 is it may be a good
Better,
posture, right?
right?
Much better, right? And we're all used to the FICO score, 250 to a 900. So we know, and we can visualize these things. So that's where TrueRisk brings in the value of bringing the data together, analyzing you, and telling you what to do.
In talking to Mehul earlier, one of the things that came out with TrueRisk is that, look, the CVE scoring system, it was a good start. Let's put it that way. But if everything is critical, then nothing is critical.
Exactly.
Right?
Right.
And so what we're trying to do with TrueRisk, or what Qualys is trying to do, is saying, look, everything isn't necessarily critical.
Right.
Let's try to put real risk in here. And that's what these numbers are. But what I find interesting is the Qualys platform is a hyperscale platform, right? It's very scalable. You couldn't do a TrueRisk without having the scale, because the numbers we're talking about to put all this together is really hard. Give our audience, if you can, some idea of that scale.
Yes, definitely. So we collect about 2.1 trillion data points, right? In order to process this huge amount of data, and along with what's in your environment, because customers vary, right? We have large customers, we have small customers, we have medium customers. Depending upon how number of assets they have in their environment, you're taking data from those assets, and you're taking data from all the threat intelligence and the intelligence that we have in our environment. Processing all of that is incredible to come up with a single number.
Right.
Right? That is what it is. And telling you it's trending. It's trending up, or is it trending down? Why is it trending up? Because we saw a lot of open ports, right? Or we saw some certificates that have expired, right? Or we saw end-of-life software. So that means we need to go fix them.
Right.
So providing that insight into, and that can only happen when you're analyzing a lot of data.
When you have to have the scale.
You need to have the scale, and that's the platform play.
Yeah, no doubt. But this also kind of fits into one of the themes that we've heard here over the last 2 days, and that is about making security simpler for the people at home, right?
Yes.
For our practitioners, for the security folks, not just for security, for the DevOps teams and the developers and the business folks, right? Security's always been hard, frankly.
Yes.
It's gotten harder because the job of securing has gotten harder, right?
Yes.
There's so many more attack vectors and everything else. So this is a way to kind of make it simpler.
Yes, because as I was mentioning, people understand numbers. People understand graphs, right? And you can put numbers on a graph to visualize the risk.
Well, it's business talk, not security talk
It's not
necessarily.
exactly.
Right. I mean, because, look, I've been doing this a long time. You would go to the sea level and they would ask one question. Are we safe?
Yeah,
Right? What?
exactly.
Are we safe? Am I going to get hit? What are the chances we're going to have a breach? Back then, we didn't have this, and it would be like,
Exactly.
Who knows?
And then justifying to your board or justifying to your senior management, why do you need extra 10 resources on this project, right? Or the investments that you did in the in the past 6 months ago, are they paying off? You want to show that you're making progress, right? Or if there are areas of investments that's needed or areas of improvement that needs to, and how can all this help? It's from data.
Right.
You can show, you can visualize the data. And that's what true risk is all about, right?
Got it.
I look at this in kind of 4 pillars of risk, right? The very first one is around discovery. So knowing what you have in your environment, whether it's users or assets or software, right? And second is around assessing it. So assessing for problems, right? Assessing for gaps, whether it's vulnerabilities, whether it's misconfigurations, you name it, right? And then third is, once you have assessed, you have your data. Now what do you do with this data, right? You can go fix everything, right? You have to start somewhere, right? And that's where the prioritization comes in place. And that helps you, okay, here are the 5 things, most critical things that you should do first. Not saying don't do the others, but that one has the most impact on your organization. So for example, if it's an internet-facing machine, or if it's a domain controller, right? That means you need to take care of them right now. You can't wait, right? Or if it is, a developer's machine, right? Or if it's a machine that's not internet-facing, or it already has all the compensating controls like full disencryption is turned on or antivirus is running, the policies are all up to date, then that can be done later on. You don't have to do it at this moment, right? So that is what we are helping with the prioritization. It's because taking the context, not many software or applications can take the context.
No, they don't know
Exactly.
the context.
Exactly. And then the last thing is, okay, you can provide me all of this stuff. Now, what should I do? Right? So what I have been hearing from a lot of customers is because they have all these point products, right? Doing all of this is very hard. Like they can discover
It's
things.
beyond hard. It's pretty clear. It's impossible.
It's impossible, right? Because you have to marry terabytes of data together and make sense of it.
Right. They don't have the scale.
So having a platform where you can do all this is it makes it easier, right?
Yep.
And then you prioritize. And the 4th pillar is around remediation, right? So then you say, okay, I got to know these are my top 5 things, right? And I need to go fix them right now. And you give them the tools. Like traditionally what's been happening, because they use point products, they have to go into another tool. That means they have to send this information to another team. They don't report into the same org, or they have different responsibilities. So, organizations are spending billions of dollars on tools, but what's the end result? What's the outcome, right?
It's been
they're
like
not
this in
secure.
security, yeah.
Exactly. They're not secure, they're not compliant, and they spend so much money, right? So this is where we are changing the game.
The tools wind up on the shelf, is the shelfware we all call it.
Right.
And quite frankly, I think it breeds another problem, and that is, it's like the boy who cried wolf. You can't go back to the board every year or every 6 months and say, I've got a shiny new magic bullet that if you give me more budget, I'll buy.
Right.
And then 6 months later, no, that wasn't the magic bullet we were looking for.
Right,
I got another magic bullet.
Right.
The board says, no, enough. I'm not. You've gotten enough money. Make it work.
Yes.
And now you're stuck working with something that really doesn't work.
Exactly. Yeah. No, having that data-driven conversation is so important at every level.
Well, especially at the board level, because that's the language they speak.
Right.
They speak numbers.
Right. And specifically one great thing about True Risk that I should mention is, it caters to all the different personas, right? So if you are a CISO and you want to report to the board, right? We have all the tools, right? It's drag and drop in your dashboard and report, because reporting is key in any risk management solution, right? So we can do that. But we can drill down too. So if you're a practitioner, you're an analyst, and you want to drill down and go fix things, we have that view as well. So again, it's very hard to have both of these. But given that we are a platform, we can do this.
Got it.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Awesome.
One last question
Of
for our
course.
audience.
Yes.
If they want to get more information, where do they go for this?
Oh, yes.
Qualys.com,
Of course,
obviously, but
of
where
course.
within Qualys.com?
Come and then go to True Risk.
TRU.
RISK.
All right. Hey, we're live in Vegas. We're going to be back here with more Qualys QSC in just a moment. Stay tuned.
CISO Talk, to hear how real-world CISOs are dealing with today's real-world issues. From enabling secure remote workers to accelerating secure cloud adoption, defending against a pandemic of security attacks and beyond. CISO Talk covers the cyber topics you want to learn about. With your hosts, Unisys CISO Matt Newfield and Media Ops CEO Alan Schimmel, featuring a revolving panel of CISO cyber experts. This is where CISOs talk. Join us on digitalanarchist.com and techstrong.tv.
Hey everyone, happy Tuesday. Cody J. Brown here with some programs happening this week at Techstrong Learning. So tomorrow, Wednesday, December 7th at 3 p.m. Eastern on DevOps.com, Digital AI is taking us through the results of the 16th State of Agile survey. Over 3,000 respondents offered their input on current trends, processes, and tools in Agile. It's time to see what they had to say about what's important right now and the challenges to scale Agile beyond just the development team. Now, turning to Thursday morning, December 8th at 11 a.m. Eastern. After looking back at Plutora's 2022 State of VSM report, we're going to take a look into the future with 2023 predictions and the state of software delivery. Our speakers will bring their perspectives on the meaning of value in times of economic uncertainty and how companies might find opportunity when aligning software delivery with new business strategies. Immediately following, at 1 p.m. Eastern, Fairwinds brings you Kubernetes cost avoidance, implementing FinOps. Cloud costs can fluctuate, and in the right conditions, catch you off guard with a much larger bill when it comes time to pay up. Well, Fairwinds applied FinOps strategies to cut down on their cloud costs and are bringing their solutions to you. Join us to learn how to right-size your containers to only use the resources you need and stick the savings back into your pocket. And capping off Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern, we have a hands-on workshop titled Securing Your App Modernization Initiatives with Snyk and HashiCorp. Architects and engineers from AWS, Snyk, and HashiCorp will walk us through the process of defining and deploying AWS services using HashiCorp Terraform and Terraform Cloud, and show us the role Snyk plays in securing infrastructure and workflows. Register for this one ahead of time, as you will need to have a Snyk account and a Terraform Cloud account to get the most out of this interactive 90-minute session. That's all I've got for you right now, but as always, we have plenty of upcoming and on-demand programs for you here at Techstrong Learning, so stay tuned.
ContainerJournal.com is the leading online destination for centralized computing-related content. ContainerJournal.com covers all aspects of software containers, from container management, data management for containers, container security, networking for containers, to the entire container ecosystem, Kubernetes, microservices, serverless, and more. ContainerJournal.com has the largest selection of container-related news, featuring breaking news, blog posts, podcasts, and more. Visit www.containerjournal.com to learn more.
Previously on Engineering the Change.
So we're making this presentation of $10,000. You got it? We had a tough time. We couldn't pick the finalists. You guys are all great. We think you're going to be great engineers. so you're in.
Oh my gosh.
Awesome. Yeah. We want to make this contribution to your life.
You so much.
And we're going to award Stephanie Sanchez as one of our 3 Spring 2022 winners of the Engineering the Change Scholarship.
I will do my best to be successful and to help other women and other people.
With this opportunity that Techstrong and Todd introduced me to, I hope to introduce it to others just like myself and give back to my community and show them that, software engineering is cool. It's not just for nerds.
So I hope to be able to continue to put the people aspect in technology as we help others around us. I'm so grateful to be able to be a part of this. Thank you.
So I started Boca Code because there's a lack of talent, not a lack of talent, there's plenty of talented people here in Boca and in Palm Beach County, but there's a lot of startup and tech companies here, and they're all really hungry for good dev talent. Welcome everybody, thank you so much for coming to our 6th new student orientation for Boca Code.
My name is Carly.
Hey, I'm Donald.
Hi, my name is Stephanie. I'm looking forward to today. I'm really excited. I'll see what this journey has to offer.
I decided to change my career and I choose the best school in Florida.
Over the past year or so, I've felt a hunch that I want to do something different, and I started looking into tech.
I stumbled upon Boca Code and I met Todd, and immediately when I walked in here, I felt like I was at home. So much. We've been doing basic JavaScript, functions, variables, loops.
So one of the things that you'll realize here is that the help outnumbers the students. The next 10 weeks is going to be really rough, and it's going to be really rough for about 10 weeks. Everyone in here is going to want to quit like 3 or 4 times a day. We've got our mama duck. So what advice do you have for them, Victoria?
So it's very hard, and I'm trying to put this on your brain. It's really gonna depend on you guys.
This is probably one of the most amazing journey you're gonna embark on. Also the most challenging.
If you need help, speak up. If you need to talk to someone, you can come to me.
For most of you, maybe all of you, this is probably gonna be the hardest thing you ever had to do.
We're here so that you can take the best of each of us and become something even better. Typically throughout the cohort, you guys will go through this, right? So here you are, you start out, the first day you're like, wow, I'm learning to code. And then day 2, you're like, oh my God, I don't know shit. And then you spend about 9 weeks in the pit of despair here, or the desert of despair, before you hit this upswing of awesome.
It's been chaos. There are days where I understand stuff, there are days I'm just kind of lost, but it's always reassuring that I always have someone to go to who can assist me, whether it's before class, during breaks and whatnot, so that's kind of nice.
There's about 7 times more developer positions than there are developers. And we want to also help people, change their lives and take people out of, careers that they don't like, careers where they're not making money. So if you're feeling at all down or lost, right, compared to the last cohort, you guys are way ahead of the game. Over the next 10 weeks, there will be many, many times where you're going to feel stupid. You're gonna have to get comfortable with that. But then when you solve that problem, when you come out and you get into this upswing of awesome,
you have to celebrate it. Take a moment when you solve a problem to actually celebrate and get excited. And it's cool, like you see somebody across the room do that and you're like, yeah. You get to like experience that high with them a little bit, and it's really fun.
It's okay to be scared because especially if you from zero experience like I was, was scared as hell, but work hard, practice.
This week was very challenging. We have a lot of challenge.
The most interesting thing I've learned this week is how to, use visual code.
So today is the last day of week 1, and to say the least, it has been a whirlwind. Roller coaster of understanding something one moment and then feeling lost the next.
I gave you, we given an array, like a list of names, and then we say like, is this person in your list of names? One way you could have solved this, we have to write a function. So let's call it, are they my friend? Right? And this takes a friends list, we'll call it friend list, and a name, and it's going to return true or false, right? If that name exists in your friend list.
One of my most challenging moments so far have been readjusting how I think and process information.
Of everything we do, arguably, retrospective is one of the most important. It might seem like really casual, and we try and make it really casual and fun and chill and like a fun way to end the week. I don't want you to ever discount it, the importance of retro.
Okay, so basically what we do is that we say our highs and lows for the week, basically how you feel and how high or how low you felt this week.
My high this week has been actually starting, because I know this is the beginning of like the rest of my life, as corny as it sounds. Yeah. So I think that's the high. And the low is probably every time I go home to do some work. And I'm like, I thought I understood, but then I gotta look it up and stuff or look over notes.
Yesterday was the worst day in my life. Bad. As I know, learning is challenging. I will put myself to learn more. But yesterday was just... Where's Zach? So it was great.
High is definitely getting started. It's been awesome. Like, everybody here is awesome. The whole experience so far is awesome. Lows would be Diary's jokes. Another high, loops. Even though I dealt with so many loops today, but I'm starting to get it. So besides that, that's pretty much it.
is Techstrong TV.
Hey guys, thanks for the throw. We're here with Nicholas Robol, who is CEO for Luos, and we're talking about embedded systems, software updates, how we're going to put microservices on these platforms, and in general, how we're going to bring DevOps to the edge. Hey, Nicholas. Thanks.
Hi, Mike. Nice to meet you too.
Fundamentally, what do you think the challenge is? I mean, we are putting more stuff out at the edge. We have more embedded systems than ever. We have some DevOps processes, but were they really designed for the edge? And what do we need to make all this work?
Yeah, I think you just point the main thing. Today, there is not really existing tools for embedded systems allowing to deal with the DevOps way. So what we are doing at Luos is that we are developing a microservice orchestrator dedicated to embedded systems, allowing embedded system developers to use the same kind of methodologies, but for electronic devices.
And I think a lot of people somehow think that the platform or the provider of the embedded system is going to help manage that. But it seems to me there's a lot of different kinds of embedded systems. So do we need something that feels like an overlay that is specifically designed for software development on these platforms? And what does that look like?
Yeah, there is a lot of different embedded systems depending on what you do. You can have a lot of different work depending on what you are developing. You can develop embedded system using embedded Linux, for example. So when you are developing on top of a Linux, this is really close to a normal software developers. After that, you could develop on top of a real-time operating system, which is like extremely light operating system. Most of the time, you don't have like file systems. You only have like a scheduler allowing you to deal with multiple tasks. And also sometimes we can develop directly on something we call bare metal. So without any operating system, we just have the hardware and we have to deal with it. So depending on where you are working on, you have a lot of tools or not tools at all. When you're working on top of Linux, sometimes you can use existing tools allowing you to deal with this kind of agility on how to create your software the way software developers are doing it today. But the closest you are to the hardware, you don't have tools when you are close to the hardware. So when you are developing using bare metal directly, you will not have any tools allowing you to deal with this kind of methodologies. So most of the time, there is a lot of different embedded systems everywhere. We are using this kind of devices every day. And a lot of embedded systems have multiple electronics boards inside. For example, I don't know, cars have a lot of cars inside. You can have multiple boards on a lot of different devices, such as the oven you have at home. There is multiple boards inside too. On all of those boards, there is a small computer able to run a small piece of code. Exactly the same, and we have the exact same problem we have when we are developing, I don't know, web applications, because when we develop a web application, we have multiple servers running small applications, and this allows you to avoid any default when, I don't know, one server crash, for example, you have to duplicate this application, allowing you to deal with it. We have the exact same kind of things, but in the electronic devices. But we don't have any tools allowing us to deal with this kind of configuration, with this kind of distributed configuration. So just first to begin, most of the time we don't have any kind of default network, such as we can have a normal software industry. So most of the time, depending on the application, you have to select the good network and to create the complete protocol on top of it, which takes a lot of time and can generate a lot of mistakes. After that, we don't always have a way to have multiple tasks running in the electronic board. And so we need to be able to find a way to get information from the network and to put it into the good part of your code. All of it is extremely difficult to do, specifically when you have something like 20 or more boards in a device, this became like a nightmare when you scale the product. And if we think about electronic devices following this way of small computers working together using a specific network, we can apply the exact same methodologies we are using on the normal software. But the big difference is that we can't use the same tools, because we can't run the tools we are using on the software world into extremely small electronic devices.
If that's the case, I mean, are we going to see microservices-based applications running across these distributed platforms? And a lot of that will be embedded systems talking to embedded systems. Not everything's going to go back to the cloud. So are we prepared to manage at that level of scale? Because it seems like it's a lot different nuances than just merely throwing up an application on the same cloud or in a data center.
Yeah. I think, yes, we will start to see a lot of different applications using microservices for the embedded devices. And also the big challenge is to be able to link those embedded microservices to the normal microservices using normal software things. Because today, most of the devices are connected. So we need to have a standard way to exchange information between embedded microservices and software microservices. And to do that, we can use API, because API can work on any piece of software. So we just have to find API allowing to be sufficiently optimized to work on embedded systems, and that can work on normal software. And that's exactly what we are doing at Leos. The idea is to be able to create API on top of any kind of small services, and then all those services will be able to exchange information. And you can also use the same library directly onto your software microservices, allowing to link your normal software microservices with embedded one. And I think this will change a lot the industry in the future. And there is already some companies that probably internally develop this kind of technologies. For example, Tesla is a really good example for that, because Tesla is already able to, I don't know, for example, during the Irma hurricane, Tesla was able to update the car batteries to increase the autonomy of the cars, allowing people on the area of this hurricane to flee. And today, this is something customers expect to have, because they have it on any piece of software. But this is something extremely difficult to do on a critical device such as a car. And the main idea of Leos is to provide a tool allowing any developers for any product developers for electronic devices to be able to have the same kind of agility.
Right. We've never been very good at continuous delivery, even in the best of times in the land of DevOps. So do you think that as we move to this embedded systems and we have all these distributed applications, that will finally force the issue where we're going to have to look at the way we think about continuous delivery? Because frankly, we've done a lot of good work on the continuous integration side of the world, but CD has always been problematic at best.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think we will have the same problems, but in embedded world, I think it will be worst, because today to update a card, most of the time you have to physically access the board. So you have to unplug everything and put a USB cable somewhere and to update it. So it's kind of extremely difficult, specifically if you want to have like something 20 boards in a device, you have to unplug all of them one by one and to update all of those boards. So at Leos, we created something allowing to get back information from the network and to copy it into the memory inside the electronic boards, exactly the same way we are doing remote updates with normal software. And this allows to remote update any firmware anywhere on the complete device. And this is something extremely important for having a complete CI/CD methodology. And also, when we're doing CI/CD, we need to get feedback from the devices. And this is also something extremely challenging for embedded systems, because we don't have a lot of bandwidth allowing us to get everything we need from the services on the electronic side. We don't have any screen. We don't have, a keyboard or something like that allowing to interact with those electronic boards. And also, most of the time, events on this kind of environment are extremely real-time, extremely with a really small time granularity. And all of those are challenges that we have to face to be able to deal with CI/CD in embedded world. And this is something we are working on with Leos, allowing to get feedback from any information at a nanosecond scale, because we are dealing with nanoseconds most of the time when we are dealing with extremely real-time systems, and allowing also developers to deploy a new revision. And I think we will have the same kind of issues you mentioned today on the software world, but in worse, because we will have a lot of different hardware and we will have to handle all those different kind of hardware, which will be like a big challenge.
As we go forward, how automated do you think all this can get? I mean, the challenge with CD in general has always been every one of these platforms is a snowflake, so it's been difficult to kind of distribute applications and code and update it. But, you know, are we on the cusp of some sort of significant advance here?
Yeah, I think the big difference is that we don't have to manage hardware diversity when we create a program, because in embedded system, when you create a program, most of the time it work on only one specific hardware with only one specific configuration, and we don't care about, I don't know, operating system update, for example, because we don't have operating system. So we masterize everything on the firmware, allowing us to don't have the same kind of portability issues that we have on the software. So we don't really need virtualization tools, for example. So yeah, we will have some issues regarding this kind of things, but we don't have the same kind of problems. The main problems we have is when we try to develop a software that will be able to run on multiple kind of hardware. This is extremely challenging. And to do that, we need to have a really good separation between drivers and applications, because drivers rely on actual hardware things, but applications can avoid all those relations to the hardware. And when you are developing this way, you can have portable application able to run on any piece of software just using the available drivers on the system. And at Leos, we are considering drivers as services, because you have a lot of different hardware features everywhere on the product. So we can consider all those hardware features are services. Then applications can use any of those drivers anywhere on the complete device extremely easily. So we don't have the same separation between drivers on application that the one we have on normal software, because we don't have those operating system holding those drivers for us. So we are creating services on top of drivers to make it possible.
So do you think that there might be a backlash against edge computing when people figure out how hard software deployment is, and then we'll go through this cycle of disillusionment before we figure out, you know, how to automate all these processes and make it work?
Yeah, I think we will have the same issues and the same needs of tools allowing us to automate the things. And the solution, we will use and develop the same kind of solutions. So all the tools allowing us to automate the trace management, the feedback management, on the deployment management, on the normal software tools will be also something useful when it comes to develop a hardware product. And we will have to develop the same kind of tools. And there is also already some companies developing this kind of tools. But the missing piece right now is this main microservice orchestration tools we don't already have. You can find, for example, Memfault is extremely interesting. They are developing a trace manager allowing to get feedback from electronic boards, which is extremely interesting. And we will have to multiply these kind of tools, allowing us to deal with the rising complexity we have today on the embedded world, and to be able to deal with extremely complex software development, and to get feedback from all those small services we will create in the future, and to deploy all of them. So we will have the exact same kind of problems. And I don't think it's more difficult to develop the tools allowing to manage all those services into hardware than the one we already have for the software. We will have, by the way, this specific piece will be exactly the same, using the exactly same technologies.
All right. Hey, Nicholas, thanks for the insightful conversation.
Yeah, you're welcome.
All right, guys, back to you in the studio.
This is Techstrong TV.
Hey guys, thanks for the throw. We're here with Kevin Haynes, who's CEO for Cybery, and we're talking about cybersecurity training and the lack thereof. Kevin, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Michael.
We focus so much on the shortage of cybersecurity personnel, but I have to wonder if we're not paying enough attention to the folks we have, and we're kind of just assuming that they are magically going to be able to keep pace with changes in technology and cybersecurity itself. So are we doing a good job on training these days, or is there something kind of broken in our system?
Well, Michael, I think it's a good question. I was reading something the other day that said roughly half of cybersecurity executives feel like the cyber skills shortage is affecting them and their organization. So that's definitely top of mind. And you're right to ask about, well, what about the people that are in the program? And what are we doing to retain, upskill those? And, I think about that a lot. At the end of the day, we're probably asking those people to do more, right? And to cover more things if there really are those shortages and the openings and the lack of ability to fill them, then we're asking those individuals to do not only more, but to do broader, different, take on different things. So I think upskilling, training, retaining really needs to be top of mind. It seems like it has, those things are a little more top of mind, but they can certainly be more so, I think.
Is the pace of innovation outstripping their ability of cybersecurity folks to keep pace? I mean, not only do we have more platforms to secure at the edge than ever, but we're seeing things like cloud native applications and all kinds of new animals in the proverbial IT zoo that need to be secured. And can they keep pace with the rate of change?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. There's certainly been tons of technology investment into cybersecurity in the last decade. A lot of that technology is really trying to bring better visibility to detect, prevent, and respond to threats. And at the end of the day, I think we all know that there's so much that sort of the computers or the technology can do itself, and there's a residual or a leftover of what has to go to individuals, like people, humans, to make choices, right? And oftentimes, at least in my experience, some of the hardest things, the most probably risky things, actually end up going to a human, right, in that process. And so, yeah, I think at the end of the day, what are we doing to make sure those things that are going to the people that are handling those things are the best equipped? What have we done to invest in their ability to handle that and know how to make the best decisions? So often that comes to training, right, and how we're preparing people for onboarding into those roles, but also continuous, because you're also right that the innovation is not just innovation in technology, but innovation in threat actor tactics. How they're sort of running their campaigns, how they're running their playbooks, right? They're gonna shift. And so this is an area where you can't be done with learning. Like it's never gonna stop. You got to be always learning. I think the other thing is I think about this, we just did this report with Omdia, research report, and it's talking about one of the stats I found incredible was 79% of the participants in this research said that they rank training, cybersecurity training of their professionals, as a 4 out of 5 in importance as it relates to the ability of their organization to stop a breach. That's huge. I mean, that's jumped off the page to me because that is incredible. So if it's 4 out of 5 importance coming down to the humans and their training, that we definitely need to be putting an emphasis on that.
To your point, is it your sense that the bad guys have some pretty efficient training programs of their own? It seems like they have no shortage of people these days. So how does that compare to what the good guys are doing?
Yeah, it's hard to say, right? What the bad guys are doing. I think it's it's probably right to think that they have playbooks, and they train to those playbooks. And there's not only one sort of bad guy, right? There's different types of organizations that probably have different types of the way they think about this. But at the end of the day, if you also think about the number of times that a defender has to be right to the number of times that somebody on offense sort of needs to be right, it's not a balance, right? So we as defenders, I think, yes, absolutely have to be always vigilant in training, and the other thing too is I think about this is, and I've learned this a lot just by working at Cybrary, and gotten really insights into strong organizations that train, and I think the best ones don't make it feel like just more work being dumped on sort of the individuals that are already stressed out and maxed out and working really hard. They do clever things to make it fun and to give people space and time to train. So like they'll do things like, hey, let's carve out an hour and 15 minutes on a Friday, right, and do something as a team that's got an element of fun and gamesmanship and everybody sort of learning something. They'll do things where they will have somebody who goes in and maybe takes a certain skill course and then get everybody else to take that skill course, but the person that went through it first is maybe an influencer, and they do kind of brown bag lunch sessions with the team over a couple of weeks as the team's going through it can learn and then ask questions of somebody in-house, so to speak, that's already done it. So they find clever ways to make it just not more work, but integrated into sort of the daily sort of work life of their programs.
Do you think we are leaning too heavily on automation and hopes for AI to compensate for the training issue, and maybe we got too much emphasis on one side and not enough on the other?
Yeah, I don't know. I would say that we have too much on sort of automation, technology, and machine learning, artificial intelligence, those things. I think they're very, very necessary, because if you just look at this, like the signal to noise, and if you, there's not enough human beings in the world to deal with all the sort of the alerts that are out there. When you're kind of looking at, okay, this, it might be, it's suspicious, is it malicious or not? I don't know. Technology is pretty good at cutting through a lot of that noise and getting to better signal. And that is really important, because there's just not enough human beings in the world to handle all that. So I think that has to continue to get better and better, and I believe it will. But as I said earlier, there's a certain residual amount that ultimately is going to go to human beings to decide and deal with, and that we probably are not putting enough emphasis on that. I think we take it a little bit for granted that those individuals are trained up and know what to do. So I think we could do more there.
As we go along here, do you think that there's a high correlation between the amount of stress that cybersecurity professionals feel and the lack of training? Because maybe it exacerbates things to the point where we are starting to see more turnover that can be traced back to the simple fact that we don't have enough training.
Yeah, I think there are many things that can create the stress. Clearly, training helps a few things, right? It helps people. In that report I mentioned, that Omni report, they talk about 48% of the respondents to that research said that it actually, when they provide training, that it actually keeps people, it helps them retain employees, not the other way around. Kind of the myth is that, if I provide training, then people are going to they're going to get trained, they're going to get this, a certification or whatever, and then they're just going to go get a higher paying job somewhere else, so they'll leave me. And that was largely rejected. I mean, hugely rejected in the research, which is great to see. So I think one, it starts with how do I have a team that I invest in so that they're cross-trained, so that there's not so many just sort of silos, but people can do more things more broadly, understand how the full program works, and help across the board. So that's one. Having people that have been there longer always helps. More tenured individuals can train and bring other people along, so it's not as chaotic as just stepping in. There's there hasn't been somebody that has been there very long. Is always problematic. So I think, yes, training can help those things, and it also provides confidence, right? These folks are making critical decisions, and they're usually having to make them pretty fast, and sometimes under duress. So the more that you have a confidence that you've seen these things before, you've sort of trained on them before, then yes, I think it can bring down the stress levels.
Mm-hmm. What's your best advice for making training engaging? Because, I think we've all seen the cybersecurity training program that's about as exciting as traffic school. So can we find some other way to kind of make this more compelling?
Yeah. So at Cyber, we're doing a few things. So one is just starting, a lot of the content and training that's out there has historically been certification oriented. And while that's good, because those are very worthy pursuits, they oftentimes can be a bit dry. So we have complemented that at Cyber with a whole plethora of, I'll call it, skills-based training that are really around recent, relevant type threats, right? So it's and we're trying to take them down to kind of like somebody could do it over a lunchtime, right? So they could do it over their lunch break. So it's not like a week-long thing, but they could get something done in 45 minutes, for example, and get a skill. And we're always trying to put a little bit of a fun, kind of gamification element to it. So those are some of the things we're doing and continue to do. The other thing I think is just by the way teams think about this, the more it feels like an individual effort versus a team effort, the more you I think it can be more dry or dull. So I think the best learning and development teams that we see, that we get an opportunity to work with, they definitely try to get their teams doing something together. So, hey, let's go take this thing on Cyber and let's do it as a team. Let's schedule out an hour on a Friday and do it as a team and kind of see who can get there first, who can solve it first, or how do we mentor the team that maybe can't get there as fast. So I think those are some of the tactics that we can do to make it more approachable. And the other thing is I think just helping people understand that you want them to do this, and it's okay to take an hour, to go skill up on something. And it doesn't always have to be, at 10 p.m. at night, you can do this. So I think kind of that can be hard, and I understand. But to the extent possible, organizations can free up, blocks of time for their team to go and invest in themselves. It's important.
All right. Well, to that point, do too many organizations expect cybersecurity people to maintain their skills on their time, and they don't factor that into the job responsibility, which is, for them to create some opportunity to train those folks? Or do they think that somehow or other they're all just magically going to go home at night and do that themselves?
Yeah, I don't think it's necessary. I don't believe that it's a sort of a negative sort of thought or like a bias towards not wanting to invest or train. I think it's just sort of a symptom of the workload doesn't stop or slow down, and I think we can all acknowledge there's a gap in this. There's a skill gap out there. So what ends up happening is you have a lot of teams and organizations that have they have more to do than they can do it, right? And so the idea of sort of taking somebody out of the fight, putting them into this training, and maybe that's something that they got to go do for a week or something, kind of be out of the loop. It's hard. It's really hard. So I think we have to understand, though, that there's in this report, I think really helps us to think around, further out and think about the benefits of training. Not, you can't just think about, okay, the time that you're taking somebody out of the fight, but think about, what they're going to be able to do to help the team, with that training in terms of how it will apply to further risk reduction, making the overall organization more efficient and effective, and retaining those employees, right? Because those teammates want to be invested in. They want to make sure that they're getting better. So I think we have to see it from both sides and do what's necessary. And like I said, as Cybrary, we're also trying to make sure that the modalities of learning don't always just have to be like, okay, you're going to go you're going to go off for a week and do something, sort of out of the fight, but like make it more integrated into sort of how people work in their day. And as I said, I think really smart organizations are finding ways to carve out times for for people to sort of do it together, and that helps.
All right, folks, you heard it here. Make cybersecurity training fun. Otherwise, people are going to check out. Otherwise known as gamification in some quarters. Hey, Kevin, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you, Michael.
All right, back to you guys in the studio.
Do you know what you want?
Can we afford this place?
I'm thinking 1,000-piece Kubernetes, cloud workload protection, and XDR combo.
Yeah, I actually don't see any prices.
Hello, how can I schedule a demo for you today?
So we're on a budget. Okay. How much is your 1,000-piece Kubernetes?
What solutions are you currently evaluating?
You don't have to order off that thing.
We don't?
How did you get in here? Check this out.
Uptick's secret dollar menu.
Order today and you can secure any combo of cloud and endpoint assets through the end of next year. All for $1.
What if I want to secure 100 Mac laptops and 900 Linux servers?
Yeah, $1. What if I want 500 laptops and 500 Kubernetes nodes? Just $1? Yep, mix and match to create the combo that works for you.
What about customer support?
Yep, everything for just $1. We're gonna order off the Uptick secret dollar menu. And seriously, how did you get in here?
Seriously.
Try the Uptick's combo of CNAP and XDR, delivered in a single UI and data model. Just $1 to secure your cloud, containers, and laptops through the end of next year. Offer ends December 31st.
Hi again, everyone. I hope you all enjoyed today's episode of Techstrong TV. We had some amazing interviews with industry professionals to give you the latest in the tech world. And alongside our extensive conference coverage and our new episode of Engineering the Change, we had plenty of great content today. We'll be back again on Thursday, so we hope to see you then. But in the meantime, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. As always, stay strong. Tech strong.